Joining me right now with more insight, Kingsview Asset Management CIO, Scott Martin. Scott, 24,302 on the Dow. Great news on the employment front. The possibility of lower corporate taxes. Not a lot to argue with right now. How are you feeling about investing? How are you feeling about the future?
Pretty good, Trish. I'll tell you, looking at the jobs report, as Shap pointed out, this is broad-based gains. I mean, this is through the 10 or 11, however you count it, S&P sectors, too, which is great. I mean, this is one of the most broad-based gain job reports we've seen all year, Trish. So to me, this is a great thing, like you said, on the back of a tax reform, tax cut package with respect to how it's going to treat corporations. Maybe not so much individuals with respect to how those rates are going to change. But either way, the job numbers are great with respect to a backdrop of a growing economy, 3+% economic growth. You got to be happy here.
Hey, no, it's great. Well, you got to be happy. In fact, you could say you're really happy and maybe even happy enough not to necessarily do all this that they need to do on tax reform. But I still want them to do it. And I want them to do it because I think it's important for the United States of America to be as competitive as it possibly can be on the world stage. And our corporations right now aren't competitive enough in that we are hindering them through a very high tax rate. Corporate's one thing, however, and you brought up something else, the individual side. And, Scott, I'm there with you because I want it all. And I think that they could have given us a whole lot more. I mean, there are plenty of individuals out there that are going to be paying more as a result of this tax reform. And there are plenty of individuals that won't really see any meaningful benefit. Do they fix it down the road? What do you think is going to happen?
Gosh, Trish, this is the opportunity. I think you're right. I think this was, I want it all. I love everything you said, by the way. I mean, and the people who are going to pay more taxes are you, me, and a lot of the viewers, unfortunately. I mean, the corporations are going to make it okay. And that's fine because they hire us, they pay us, and they spend money too. But this notion of phenomenal tax reform that we heard, Trish, gosh, back in February and March seems so far gone, doesn't it? But to your point, I'll tell you, I agree, though. You made a good point, though, initially, which is it's better to have the money in the coffers of the corporations than it is the government because they're going to spend the money smarter, wiser, and better than the government will.
Theoretically,
so in that sense,
it should help the individuals because individuals will have a better shot at getting a better job and getting better wages if the companies have more money. And I don't mean to finish your sentence, but I think we're in agreement on that.
Very true. And the companies can spend more money on benefits. They can put more money in your 401k. They can contribute more to a safe harbor contribution or whatever's going on at your 401k situation because the companies are better off having the money in their hands than it is the government. And that's what,
but I also feel like I'm better off having the money in my hands than leaving it in the government's hands or in corporations' hands. I mean, again, the individual side of this, I think, is truly lacking. Now, they may pull a rabbit out of the hat last minute here. There's still an opportunity to do that. I know they're still negotiating on the SALT front. Scott, what would be your hope as we get into these final days? What could they do to fix the individual side of this?
Listen, I think they've got to simplify the code. It doesn't look like they're going to do this, but I think you've got to cut down the tax brackets. I mean, Donald Trump said, remember, we're going to fill this out on a postcard. We're going to make this simple. Well, then let's cut down the tax brackets. Let's make it very simple for every modern American to understand what they're going to take home, what they're going to pay, and limit the deductions, but also increase some of the itemized things you can do and make sure that at least everybody can at least understand what they're going to take home. And that, to me, is not happening in this tax
plan. Yeah, no, they didn't do it. And the other thing that I keep talking about here on this program is their inability to address the private equity investors' handout effectively that they get. It could have saved them $100 billion. They opted not to do this. Donald Trump campaigned on this. He said, Hillary won't touch this. Obama won't touch this. They won't touch it because these people are too important to their campaign coffers. That's why they're not touching it. So he promised he would. But guess what? The Senate and the Congress, they didn't bother to do a darn thing.